Greetings, Patrick here. Have Cheeto will view 8 questions with, and welcome to a matinee edition of the show. This is a show that had been rescheduled. We will be talking with Craig Hamann, Sam Dobbins, and Patsy Dunn. They will be here in about 15 minutes, and we will be talking about Broken Brothers and all sorts of other things. This will be a very fun interview, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it as much as I am going to have telling it, sharing it, and talking about it. Wow, what could I say? Yesterday was a lot of fun. Um, we had Lady Sasha come back for part two of her interview, and end up having just a hell of a time. Great interview, great conversation, and she's right. We could have just kept going. Um, but we could have, and I would actually probably would have did that too. Given the given who I was chatting with. But of course, her and millions of others wanted to see the Tyson fight. Um, Boy, that was sort of disappointing to tell you the truth. I don't know, man. I feel sort of weird, while I was watching the round by round, and man, it's like the Mike Tyson that was shown training. Man, it's like he got left behind, and this popped up. I mean, this is not the Mike Tyson you saw doing the training, lifting and running and hitting. I mean, it was sparring. It was just like, that's not the same guy. He just stood out there and he got beat by decision. Um, uh, oh, hey, what's going on, sir? All right. Thank you guys both for coming on in. Yeah. Hey, Brian, how are you? How are you? Yeah, this will be a fun replay. You'll enjoy this one, Jim, for sure. Um, yeah, I don't know who else saw the fight last night, but I was just really surprised to see how quickly it just went to shit. As far as his stamina goes and his legs. I mean, they're sitting there saying by the end of the third round, he was gassed. That's only 6 minutes worth of boxing. I don't know. I didn't. You know what? I have suspicions. Um. Uh. Yeah. You know what? I would. I'm not really sure, Brian. Honestly, hell, I'm not sure about that fight. I mean, think about it. Think about it. For Tyson, it's a lose lose situation, right? It's lose lose. Um, if he wins, if he wins, the pressure's on him to fight again. The pressure is for him to fight again, and he doesn't need to be fighting again. He really does not be fighting. He didn't need to be fighting this one. Um, so he loses that in that way, the pressure. Um, Someone commented it tarnishes legacy. I don't think Tyson went all out yesterday. I don't think Tyson fought yesterday. And I got to really, I mean, I know in a world of conspiracy theorists, but I can't help but think like, hey, he went out there, he was getting paid millions of dollars for that, millions. Only thing he had to do was worry about was not being knocked down, and he was never in trouble. I mean, he was never in trouble. He was never hurt. He was never in danger of getting knocked down. Um, you win in boxing. You win by sheer power, but you also win by how many times can you hit your opponent versus how many times they can hit you. Um, he hit him enough to make it look legit, but Paul didn't have he didn't he wasn't hurting him at all. He won by just tapping it, tapping on him. I don't think Tyson went all out. Um, they're saying there how he charged to the middle of the ring. Who does that? Who's going to do that? That's not the way Mike Tyson was going to win that fight. Tyson was going to win that fight by getting him in a corner. not running out and meeting him in the middle of the ring. Well, yeah, well, Paul's that's just nothing but a losing thing. He has not fought any. He's only fought one legitimate fighter. He's only fought one legitimate fighter that could match up with him, and he lost. He lost, and that was Tommy Fury. Um, Beating up on all these people that are not boxers does not impress anybody. And beating and fighting a 58-year-old man, even Iron Mike, is not gonna. And no one's impressed. Nobody's impressed. Now, if he wants to go up there, he wants to fight. He wants to fight. Tyson Fury, or he wants to fight. Andy Ruiz. Yeah, I'm down for that. If he wants to fight anybody in the middleweight to lightweight division, a legitimate fighter recognized by, but even then, I don't want to see him get a championship fight. He hasn't earned a championship fight. He's fought one legitimate fight, so he should not go. He should not. I mean, he should not get a title fight at all on any level. And people say, well, he can hit, he can box, he can. We don't know that. We don't know that. He hasn't fought anybody. Anybody can be a badass in front of a mirror. Hey, Anthony, how are you? How are you? Thank you for taking care of that too, buddy, on your community tab. I appreciate that, man. Good looking out. So today we are talking about. We're going to be talking with Sam and Craig and Patsy about a brand new film they got coming out called Broken Brothers. This is going to be an interesting discussion. This film seems to be really, really important. And in fact, it's so important, they must have heard me mention their names because they just rang the doorbell. So let's go get those three and let's get this cracking. I want to talk a little bit about Broken Brothers. Actually, I want to talk about it a lot. Plus, we'll talk with Sam and Craig about their past careers. Both gentlemen have some really fun stories to tell us, I'm sure. But for right now, let's just go get our guest. And thank you for being here. Share us out if you can. And here we go. Greetings.
Hey, Patrick.
Hi, Patrick.
All right. So there are the force behind Broken Brothers, which is I really I've been thinking about that film pretty much the whole week. It's been in my head, and I'm thinking how timely it is for a movie like this, but with us being like, I think this is sort of like an important movie, and hopefully this will reach some people and remind them that this still is America, as much as it has been overwhelmed by other forces as of late, but we still have some integrity left. We still have some stories to tell. We still have a country to live in. I think this is a really timely movie right here to raise awareness. I think it's going to be a raise awareness. I think this is going to be a future type of deal.
It carries a message that really needs to be out there, and it's sad that sometimes it's not. It's a film with a lot of heart. It has humor, has a good story. It also has a lot of drama to it too, and it has a lot of America in it, and a lot of what people who come home from wars, what they go through, and how are they treated, really. Because America has a lot of dirty little secrets, and it likes to sweep things underneath the rug. And we're trying to pull the rug out here a little bit and expose, a part of America, which is the veterans.
It definitely has a unity to it, like what this country needs. The story is about a unity, a group of vets that band together, uh, as same as they would if they were in the trenches in the foxhole, you know.
Yeah.
And
Because in a funny sort of way, they're still in a war. They just have changed locales.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, when you're writing this, or when you're thinking about, when you're writing this story, you're in pre-production right now, and what has just happened, and with the election, it just seems to be a more timely message now. Like, and I'm not necessarily so sure that all, that our enemies are all foreign. Um, and some of our troops are going to be. I think they're going to be forced to choose. And I wonder how much of that is actually going on in their minds right now. Like, in the near future, what's going to happen to them here in this country? I mean, we talk about how we take care of our soldiers. They fought in Vietnam, they fought in Iraq, and they fought in Somalia and Lebanon and whatnot. I mean, I'm just wondering how this movie is gonna. It's, to me, it seems like a warning bell. Like,
Well,
not every enemy that we're going to be facing is going to be outside of our borders, and the soldiers that are in our borders. I mean, you think they think they're forgotten now? What's going to happen to them if that happens here? I mean,
Yep.
no.
Yep. Well, for me, it was a story. It's a story about the human condition, and honestly, I mean, my own father was a World War II veteran. My grandfather was a veteran. I had the very tragic situation of my brother committing suicide. So I think that we try and focus on look, every single veteran I've spoken to, and they don't open up easily. They getting into open up is not easy, but once they trust you enough and they trust their own souls enough, they kind of share a lot with you. There is only so much damage war can do to a human body or to a human brain, psychologically, spiritually, physically, intellectually, in every kind of way. And it's interesting. I have a friend, a childhood friend, who's a really well-known plastic surgeon in London, and he was on call, and he used to send me emails in the middle of the night when he just couldn't switch off his brain because he had been, repairing or trying to repair the damage to young soldiers coming in, being flown in from Afghanistan, and I mean, it doesn't just affect, the veterans. They have families, those who never came back. I mean, if you look at the Navy, how many young souls were buried at sea, and their families never got closure to bring them home. War is a dirty business. Usually, it's follow the money, and the kids are fat cannon fodder. And every single veteran I have spoken to has said the modern war, back to Vietnam, back to World War II. Well, Vietnam was horrendous, but an Agent Orange is still killing people. They all say that most of part of them is still back on the battlefield with their buddies who died there, and that is a battle that they bring home with them. And there's no way you can fit into normal society unless you have help. They're homeless. Some of them choose to be, but others are just not given the assistance they need. It's just terrible how we treat them. We use them and we just discard them. We discard their souls.
I think that's really, and our World War II vets are, they're pretty much at the end, as far as it goes. There's, and in some ways, it's a kindness, because I can't imagine what it would be like to be in their shoes, knowing that they went over there and fought for this country, bled for this country, watched their friends and colleagues die for this country, and then today walk around and see what we're seeing on the streets. Thugs walking around with swastikas and Nazi flags.
Oh,
I could die to stop that.
My dad was a World War II veteran, and he did fight against the Nazis. And he did come back with some PTSD. And it was pretty horrific over there, the things that he told me. He's gone now. I mean, he passed away a while ago. I'm almost happy that he's not alive, because if he saw that, and if he saw the insurrection even, it would really, really hurt him. Because that's not something that he can forget as a veteran, or could have forgotten when he was here as a veteran, what he experienced, and then to have it rear its ugly head again. No, that would have been very difficult for him.
The sense of betrayal would have been just absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I feel that way too.
But I think that the world, this is very much an American story. But I mean, there are world wars all over veterans all over the war. I mean, like, I know Australia sent a lot of soldiers to Vietnam at the time. It also draws attention to, we allude very strongly, as you can see by our beloved radar up here, whose handler, he's a SWAT team apprehension dog, purebred Malinois, and his handler, Emin, Sarge, says that please tell the world that he's 1% police dog and the rest goofball. And he's a sweetheart. So he's our combat dog. But he'll still take your face off. But we're trying also to just draw attention to working war dogs. And the fact that if you look at Robbie's Law, which was passed which was signed into law by Bill Clinton in 2006, in Vietnam, for example, over 4,000 military dogs by the US were left behind in Vietnam, just abandoned to their own fate.
They were considered equipment.
They were considered equipment. So now they're not. Now they're given a higher rank than their handlers. And they are put out for adoption. Usually they're adopted by their handlers. But I mean, we try and draw attention to that. But I mean, war, we use animals all the time, and they are such innocent victims too. And the other thing that really struck me was that I don't know if the public are aware of, like, when we were doing the pitch decks for the film, for investors, one of the interesting things that came out of it was Facebook, just one social media. Social media is huge these days. Just Facebook, United States, not the rest of the world, United States, 250 million Facebook users know someone who's a veteran, are in the military, or a Gold Star member, Gold Star family members, or are associated with the military in some way. That's an incredible amount of people. Yeah,
but you know what though, Patsy, and I'll quite honestly, you got to subtract at least 77 million from that.
Oh yeah. No.
You got to anybody who, and this may be sort of harsh, and maybe so, but this is how I feel. But there's the people who people like to there is a lot of false flag wavers. America this, America that. But we saw in the election that there's 77 million people that actually don't give a rat's ass about our troops, don't appreciate our military, don't respect the service that's given either by our two-legged soldiers or four-legged soldiers. They don't give a rat's ass about them, and they proved that with their vote at the ballot.
Yeah.
So it's think about it. If we can mobilize America to help out and to help these folks, that would be awesome. We have millions, but now we know for sure that there's at least 77 million of them that don't care, that do not care. I mean,
they don't do their research.
Well, maybe this will give them some research, this movie.
Yeah,
provide them with some education, because and wake them up about some things. because, as I said before, doesn't make sense, man. You go over to another country, you fight, then you come back here, you're still in the war. You're trying to survive, and no one's really helping you out. They
No,
say they do, but they don't.
no. And
You know,
then,
I'll tell you, so I'm so sorry to interject here, but I'll tell you what really right now is just burning my soul. Look, I'm an immigrant. I came here 32 years ago because I considered America to be the greatest country on earth, and it gave me, and it has. America has been really good to me, and Americans I've found fundamentally really good people. But I came here as an immigrant, but did everything the hard way. America does not make it easy for you to immigrate. But what really burns me right now are the illegals who are given hotels and loaded debit cards when people in North Carolina are suffering after this hurricane, and they need the help more than anyone, and our veterans need the help. Our homeless veterans need the help. So that's a kind of pet peeve right now.
I agree. It is frustrating to see. But there's two ways of looking at that. There's two ways. And it's like, and you do, and I too don't like it. I don't necessarily like the idea, but I think for me and a few other people, our reasons are a little different. Listen, it's so even if you made a movie about their awareness of the border, and it's a legitimate concern. I mean, it's just as important. It's just as important in a sense, like with Broken Brothers, and if anybody did a movie about the border and about the struggles over there, and it's like the thing that really hurts is that the people that are crossing the border are being vilified. And they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be vilified. And what there should be sympathy toward that, and encouragement for them to go home,
And
to tell them to go back, because look, everybody loves their own country. I mean, you walk around to everybody, and even the ones that have wars in them, if you ask them, do you love your country? Do you love where you live? Do you love the land? I would say maybe about 85 to 90% of the people that we ask that question to would say that yes, they love where they live at. They love the land. I mean, do they want to leave? No, this is their place. This is where they want to be. And the thing is, though, it's like that's what we should be applying, and get those people to go back home to fix their country. But the fact of the matter is that we're talking about American being at war, and dirty little secrets. We have caused this illegal crisis at our borders. America is they are basically coming to collect what's owed them, because we have spent decades of destabilizing their region. Honduras, Nicaragua, Panama. We have done that. Okay. We have shipped millions and billions of dollars worth of arms down there. The CIA has trained their armies. We have created that mess. Now it's coming home to roost, and now people are upset about it. Well, you didn't want to know what we're doing down in South America. You didn't want to know that we're destabilizing all these countries. No. Only thing you know is you look up and you see everybody at the border wanting to come in, because down there it's so hellish.
Well, if they knew some of the people that we backed, that the CIA backed, and helped, of course, and later on they became enemies.
Well, we flip-flopped too.
Yeah,
our enemy became our ally, and then our ally became our enemy.
Right. So I mean, it's sort of like you get all these people vilifying these folks, and they have no idea of that. Mm-hmm. You don't understand that they're here because of what we've done. So why wouldn't they come here and want to be, and get a hotel room and get whatever? Because they didn't. If they had a choice, live peacefully in their country, or go thousands of miles on dangerous road to come to a place where they may or may not make it through. I can pretty much sit there and guarantee that everybody that's on the border, they would like to be back at their own country doing their own thing.
Oh yeah, it's definitely that. It's also it's also the American dream, you know, through movies and TV. They see, you know, and the clothes. Everybody loves everything American. I mean, there was a time where in Russia, Soviet Union, a pair of American jeans, a pair of Levi's, you know, were
hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm from South Africa originally, and my reasons for coming out here were really not political because I'm such a creative beast. I had reached a glass ceiling, and I just felt that America, I would either, to quote unquote, if I can make it there, I can make it anywhere. And I felt that I had to come here, and if I failed, I could lick my wounds in private, and no one would know because South Africa, you know, my mother would have been, oh, you failed, you know, very Victorian. But America gave me the opportunities to be, to grow creatively and to reach levels in my creativity and my storytelling that I would never have had back home. So, and of course, then I married this guy, this dude. And the rest is history. I never went home. I stayed. I had the best reason for staying.
And then they adopted me.
Yes.
Yeah, this is our child.
Yeah.
But actually, the spark for Broken Brothers actually started in South Africa because of Patsy's 21st birthday. She was given a gift. It was a set of Herman Hesse novels. And one of the Knut really resonated with her.
Yeah.
And that whole story. And that's how this story evolved from that to Broken Brothers.
Yeah.
You know.
I think also, sorry, Lovey. I mean, it's also, I was trying to find my way to knowing my own father who suffered bouts of homelessness, terrible alcoholism from being torpedoed so many times in the Battle of the Atlantic, and it shredded our family. But I knew him. I knew all the family myth and legend stories, but I didn't know him. And my whole life has been a way of this girl trying to find her dad. Mm-hmm. And then along the way, I found out I wasn't the only one. Everyone has someone who they're trying to find their way to. Or back to, and then I also wanted to do this film, and I'm going to be very shameless about putting that out there. I wanted to do something for Sam because he's an incredible actor, and I wanted to give him an actor's piece that he could really get his teeth into. But then it kind of grew, you know. Sometimes these things just become bigger than you overnight. And suddenly everyone was saying, oh, well, this, and it grew. So now we're looking at bankable talent because that's what film distributors and sales agents want. And trying to explain to a lot of people who are not in the industry, no, this is not about booking a movie star. This is about making money for the investors. I want them to be able to feel that they can come back and play in the sandpit.
He's still in it, though.
But yeah, the most important thing is to get the movie made.
Yeah. Exactly.
If say for instance Jeff Bridges, whoever would want to play, and they get, I'll do craft service instead. The movie to get made.
We have the script out to a few names. I'm not going to mention who, I can't at this point, but these are worldwide well-known names, and I had to also understand that I wanted actors who would be kind to me and who were complete humanitarians, not afraid of doing like if you look at a movie, I mean, I'm crazy about Jeff Bridges, of course, and Colin Farrell. They did a movie called Crazy Heart that was so beautiful. First time feature director, budget of $7 million, and it was beautiful. And so these are, and I think Jeff Bridges actually said in an interview that he actually enjoys working with first time feature directors. So I thought, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so, a lot of directors, a lot of actors do that. I've heard that many times. They do like working with first-time feature filmmakers.
Right, yeah. Well, I've directed, but a feature film is a different beast. I wanted to not overload it with characters. I just wanted it to be something that good actors would really want to be a part of. And the two other small things about it, I'm not auditioning anybody. I'm meeting with the talent and talking to them, because I believe that if you look into someone's eyes and you talk to them, you get a good idea of who they are. And for goodness sakes, if a name like Jeff Bridges comes on board, everyone knows what he's capable of doing. So if he wants to be a twig in the foreground, he can be a twig in the foreground. It really doesn't matter.
And Patsy is very open to improv. You know.
Oh my gosh, I would think that improv would have to be a must.
Yeah,
definitely.
You know, shoot two, three cameras, and
I don't think you could write it.
Free to go. You know, as long as you stay within the context of the scene, and just feel free to just go.
How hard has it been to write? How hard has it been to write this story, because you're writing it both to raise awareness, but you're also writing it as a drama. And
Yes.
to me, I would think, and that's got to be that's got to be sort of difficult to write because I mean, look, some of the war films that are out there. If you look at, even the, either all the anti-war movies or even the propaganda movies. I mean, you got to be real careful that, you want to keep it real and sort of raw to it.
It's not in your face anti-war. It's definitely anti-war, but it's more like anti establishment that is not. They're not there. That the infrastructure taking care of the vets when they come home is not there, except maybe handing them a couple of pills and say, I'll see you in a month.
And I find it very hollow. I find it very hollow when the public say thank you for your service. I mean, I like that. I think the veterans appreciate it, but I really don't think that anyone fully understands what they've been through. And I dived deep. It took me I think it took us 4 years to really write the story.
Yeah, before we started putting into script form treatments and research.
It sent me into some serious bouts of depression as well.
I agree. I mean, I hear that term too, Patsy. Thank you for your service. And I got to tell you again, when I hear people say that, it sounds utterly, completely hollow.
It does.
To me, the only people when people walk up to us, they think it truly is a brotherhood.
Yes.
To understand, like I didn't get a chance to serve myself. I had a bad eye. I couldn't make it in. I still can respect it. My for people who can't make it into the service, for any reason, you still can serve. And that part of it is to actually read books, read about the history of the military, read about the various soldiers that fought, remember their history, remember what they've done. And so when you do it, you got somebody coming up there, like today, that are Holocaust deniers. Yes, can you believe that?
I know. When I was in Europe, I went to the camps, and that gives you a whole new perspective.
My dad saw the camps when they were the camps.
Oh.
And I can tell you, he knew that there was a Holocaust.
Yeah, I think the world needs a reset. The world, and that's funny. My dad told me once, on a few occasions he opened up. He said every 100 years or so, and guess what? He was World War II, where we are now. He said every 100 years or so, the world needs a reset button in the most horrendous way possible, because, the kids of today, you can't get them to read because they're behind their phones and they have the attention span of a gnat. So, it's this is not a Marvel multiverse type of film. This is very organic.
And don't forget, excuse me, I was going to interrupt. Some of the things they should be reading, there are people out there saying we don't want them in the library anymore. That kind of stuff.
44 as of right now, 4,400 books have been banned from from libraries and schools.
That's crazy.
Well, it's Fahrenheit 451.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And how can you live your life? You have to understand history in order not to repeat it.
Right.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that we have men and women still alive. Not very many of them, but they're still there, that fought in a war that killed millions upon millions of people, and we have forgotten all about it.
Yeah.
You know what I knew that we were in trouble as far as that goes. I can tell you what, to me, that when we started falling backwards and when we started forgetting, it used to be newsworthy. They used to send out crews and reporters when the president flew to Pearl Harbor and when they walked the beaches of Normandy. Presidents don't do that anymore. Now you might get a vice president, or you might get maybe a secretary of state, but it used to be headline news when the president would go to the USS Arizona and toss flowers where the Arizona lies, or walk the beaches of Normandy, walk Omaha and Silver and Juneau. And we don't do that anymore. We don't, and not only do we not do that anymore, we don't even mention it anymore in our newscasts.
Yeah.
And we don't always have presidents who even want to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And
so if they can't do such a simple gesture, if they can't, it really it doesn't surprise you to see how shitty our combat soldiers have been treated. I mean, no one can be really surprised when today when they say that 22 veterans they pass away every day by their own hand.
Yeah, 22 to 55.
I mean, people act like they're surprised by that, and they're going like, "Why are you surprised? If you read the history, if you talk to any of these people, you wouldn't be surprised."
Yeah, yeah, it's the absolute truth. I mean, we pretty much wrote this, interestingly enough, in a public library, and I'm going to thank them at the end of the film. The reason being is that you could sit there in the peace and quiet. And dignified surroundings, and you could sit at a desk with your, a virtual wall of research books around you. And there was a lovely man, and he still goes there, I believe, a Vietnam veteran, who was just the most darling man on the face of the planet. And what he does, he lives in the neighborhood, and he just quietly walks to the neighborhood, to the library every day, and he just sits and reads. And he has to read with the book right up to his face because his eyes are bad, and everyone loves him, but he's got stories to tell. I mean, what stories does he have to tell? And we have a gentleman who we are going to be honoring in the film, who's actually best friends with one of our actresses. His name is Francis Kilduff, and he's 102 years old, and he just turned 102, and he was in the United States Navy, and we're honoring him in the film. He was in the David Bowie video.
there's not many left, as you was mentioned. There's not many left. World War II vets.
Yeah.
I think there's even the Allies. I think there's a total of maybe a little over 100,000.
Yeah. My dad would be horrified. My grandpa would be horrified at what's going on right now. Yeah.
My father joined the Army, but he joined when he was 17, and my grandfather had a sign, but he was too young for World War II. He was, I think the war was already over, like 11 months by the time he went in, and he was stationed in Italy. There were snipers that were still there, but the war was already over. But he was lucky that when he went, he was too young. If he would have gone, he was a year or two older, he would have,
And luckily he didn't land. Luckily he didn't land, and didn't get stationed there, because when the war ended, the Germans were still fighting very hard in Italy.
Yeah, there was a lot of snipers. There was a lot of snipers there, but but as far as there's no more like tanks and things like that, big heavy armory. He didn't witness any of that. He was lucky.
In some small way, I just hope that firstly the film was done for our veterans. They to me are the most important part of our audience, and my respect for them is unbelievably profound. And then we have a secondary audience, so we've had to walk a fine line with the story in terms of general audience who really don't understand.
Well, what war are you? What war are you placing your soldiers in? I mean, is it going to be
World War I.
Iraq?
Yeah, it's
Not just one time period.
there'll
No.
be
there is one Vietnam.
depending on, a lot of it has to do with the casting, the age of the characters, but there'll be somebody to represent Vietnam, World War II, Korean War,
Afghanistan.
yeah, the desert storm wars, yeah.
Yeah, because definitely.
Yeah, it's we should represent them all. And again, going back to the audience, it's still a story, and regardless of anybody who's served or has family members, it's still going to be a compelling story for the average audience as well, because everybody could relate to depression, mental illness, drug addiction, and homeless. Everybody sees tents all over the country, all the big cities, tents lined up. Sad situation.
Very sad.
So everybody knows it. Everybody's aware, regardless if you've been to war or had a family member who was in war.
Yeah.
They see they see who comes home, and they see what happens. And going back to Vietnam, they came back, and they were called baby killers, a lot of them, and spit on. And there was a draft. A lot of them they didn't necessarily want to go.
Yeah.
They went. They got called up. They went, and then they went through horrendous situations, and then came back and spit on a lot of times.
I have a Facebook friend named Linda Moreau, who since Vietnam, her brother was the helicopter pilot on the last Huey that flew out of Vietnam. And he had, I think, 3 crew members with him, and they were shot down. The day they all left, he was the last flight out, and he was shot down. And they kind of know the area where his Huey Huey is a helicopter, for those who don't know. And that I've flown in lots of Hueys, and I just love the sound. It's got a sound of its own. And a lot of Vietnam veterans say that it's the sound of beating angel wings coming to rescue them. It's a beautiful thing to say. Every year, twice a year, Linda goes to Vietnam to try and recover her brother's remains all these years later. But she still takes with her knitted hats and clothing for Vietnamese children. And they still try and retrieve. She's still trying to retrieve her brother's remains, and I find that incredibly tragic and very noble. And she's not the only one. There are so many like her out there. So God bless Linda Moreau for what you're doing.
Do you find it? To me, this is the thing that gets me too. It's our government will put our soldiers in harm's way. Like Afghanistan, or Iraq, many soldiers went to Iraq that did not need to be there. It was a war based on a lie. But then again, a lot of the United States' wars are based on lies. They've only fought. Four wars where they fought that actually meant something.
Yeah.
The War of 1812, the Revolutionary War, World War I, and World War II.
Right.
World War I, like an entire generation of young men were wiped out.
Yep. Yeah. Sure were.
Just wiped out. The Battle of the Somme, there were so many bodies. They just plowed the earth over them. That's where the poppies grew.
And also going back to studying history, Afghanistan, the Russians were there first.
Yeah.
And they didn't fare too well.
No.
And we should have learned that lesson before we went in. And again, also Vietnam, the French were there before we were there, and they didn't do too well either.
Yeah, we didn't learn anything.
No,
we got chopped up. Our tactics were not right. and and the thing that kills me more than anything else, it's like, I mean, I don't understand when they have rules of engagement. I mean, think about if you're a soldier. I mean, think about the causes, what led them to being on the street. Imagine being trained to do your very best. I mean, to shoot, to fight, to jump out of a helicopter, to jump out of a cargo plane, to quote Rambo, to operate $1 million equipment. Imagine doing all that, being trained to be the very best. Ranger School, Delta, SEALs, all these elite operators get put in a campaign, get put in a theater, and then told to only use 50% of what you can. 50%. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't do this. Because it's all coming from the politics side.
Their hands are tied.
I mean, you're sitting there, you're asking me to come over there and to defend this country, but then you're telling me, well, yeah, you can defend it, but only to a certain point.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see that's crazy.
And a lot of soldiers died because of those policies.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's this whole there's this great meme I saw on social media, and it's a soldier at war, and he's got his arms are bare, and he's got a beard, and he's on the radio to his CO, and he's saying, "Yes, sir. Full dress uniform every day, sir. Yes, shaving too every day." It's just like basically with such a middle finger to commanding officers. But I mean, it was funny, but it was also they're out there taking the flak.
Yeah.
So it's like, don't question what they're doing. It's like, and they're kids, they're so young when they join, and they're so they have such good intentions and such good hearts, and they come back broken, and they come back angry, and they come back to, some VAs are great, some VAs are not great, and they are basically abandoned. I mean, my own dad disappeared on us for a few years. He was homeless. We didn't know where he was. And we finally, my grandmother had to hire a private detective to find him. They found him 1,000 miles away, sitting on a park bench. And then, people talk about the 1,000-yard stare. And that's something the actors are going to have to conquer, to find out how do you, the 1,000-yard stare, when your body and your soul and your central nervous system has seen and been through so much that you have a look in your eyes that you will never fully be functional as a human being again. The 1,000-yard stare.
I've been told I had that. I've been told, yeah. Even though I didn't serve, but I took care of my wife for 2.5 years, and I had people that were soldiers. They would come up there and say, they would ask me if I served because I have that look.
Yeah.
And I say, no. And he goes, well, wow. And he goes, why did you ask? And he says, well, because you look like you're just not there. You look like you're just.
They drift.
Yeah, but being a caregiver for a loved one
is
not easy. It's very hard. The caregivers need help themselves.
Yeah.
Especially when you're caring for somebody that you love and seeing what they're going through.
And I'm sorry.
It's traumatic. Yeah, sorry you went through that, because that's.
But especially though, it's really heartbreaking. It's like, when they found your father, Patsy, did he say, okay, I'm coming home and work with you and try to get my life back together? Were you able to get him to do that, or was he happy where he was at?
I don't know. I wasn't privy to that, but I do know they did manage to bring him home, and he had his own small bedroom in this very little humble house, and my heart broke recently because I saw it had been torn down.
Yeah, our parents were separated.
Yeah, my parents were divorced because my mom didn't understand PTSD. My dad was devastatingly handsome. I mean, devastatingly handsome. In fact, here's a fun fact. He dated the British movie star Margaret Lockwood, and she wanted him to come to Hollywood because she said he'd be a brilliant matinee idol movie star, and he was like, "No, I'm going to Africa," which he did. That's the whole thing. I'm actually writing his story.
Yeah, because he was British Royal Navy.
He was British Royal Navy, but he sat down, and the family, his brothers, all took care of him. and my one beloved cousin, and I'm hoping he sees this podcast, Eddie Dunn. My own brother was named Eddie Dunn as well. Ed Van Dam, actually, Eddie Van Dam. Found a lot of my dad's paperwork that he'd been working on before he died, and one was a volume of poetry he wrote during World War II, and I have it with me, the original manuscripts with his handwriting on it. There's an incredible sonnet about the destruction of Hiroshima, which he thought was an abomination. And he wrote 2 books. One on his growing up. He was born in India when it was British rule, and the other was called No Road to Glory, and that was about being in war. I'm trying to find the manuscripts, but I'm trying to retrieve whatever information I can so I can complete that book for him. And I believe that there were film and television rights on both of them, but I can't be sure. It's like until you actually, I'm one of those people, I've got to see the evidence in front of me before I believe anything. But a loud noise would go off and he would be under the table sobbing and crying and bunched up. They called it shell shock back then. But as we know today, it's PTSD. In those days, there was this whole thing about, oh, for goodness sakes, just pull yourself together.
But he was a captain of a battleship.
A destroyer. Yeah, British destroyers.
Really? Which ship was it?
He was on a few. I can send them to you. I don't have them on hand right now. They lost so many kids at sea, and the Merchant Navy must never be ignored. The Merchant Navy served an enormous service in bringing supplies across the Atlantic to Britain, because Britain was in such need of them at the time. So the destroyers would, I've got it even in my head, I can see the layout of what a convoy was. And the convoy could only go as fast as its slowest merchant ship that was carrying either wood or iron ore or whatever the case was. But my dad was torpedoed allegedly twice by the U-boat captain, the ace Otto Kretschmer, who was actually captured towards the beginning of the war. But my dad was torpedoed twice. Interestingly, the first time it happened, it was midnight, Atlantic, mid-winter, mid-Atlantic. I mean, huge these icebergs, you name it, it was terrible. And he turned to his number 1 officer and he said, "Oh, I say, old chap, I have a feeling we're going to get it tonight, And as he said it, a torpedo hit them. And he went down with her. And, he always used to say to me, because, we were very, cheeky youngsters in South Africa, because the beaches, great white sharks only attack in sharks only attack in warm water. And my dad went, no, the sharks would follow the convoys, because there were so many ships that went down that they had a constant feeding supply of bodies. And he got himself into a life raft, and one of his subjects that he studied at Greenwich College, Maritime College, was navigation. And he figured that if he could stay alive long enough in those conditions, he was the only one left, he would land within 14 days 13 miles off the coast of Greenland, which was a major shipping lane. And sure enough, 14 days later, a Norwegian freighter picked him up where he thought he'd be. And historians have told me from London that my dad studied at a very, very high level. They suspect he might have been intelligence. We don't know. It's still something that we will have to find out.
He was in certain places
where he shouldn't have been.
He shouldn't have been.
Right.
And it was documented.
Yeah.
And a couple of former, were they in what service were they in? The
intelligence?
No, the person that told you this. Well, anyway, this guy is. He said that he was on this particular ship, and then several months later, he was somewhere else where he shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
And
so
he's saying he must have been part of intelligence at the time.
Yeah. So
I actually when I was a kid, I built the HMS Ark Royal.
Oh, very famous vessel.
Yeah.
But what happened with him was he was in, and I have his passports, interestingly, with all of this information in them, because all the soldiers would dock at Londonderry in Ireland, and and people would you'd be assigned to different ships, and so some of the spelling of the names was wrong. But he was sent back to the war after that sinking. And this is the most amazing part of the story, is that exactly a year later, he turned to his number one and said, "Oh no, I have a deja vu." At the same time, he was torpedoed again. And this time he got into the life raft, but his coat, those big woolen coats that they wore, had pulled him down with the ship, had caught and pulled him down. Then the boilers exploded and blew him to the surface, which he told me was actually very common in seafaring warfare. And so he had his lungs half filled with crude oil, his hips were crushed, gets himself into life raft. It's midwinter, mid-Atlantic, and here we go again. He says, "I'm in the same current. Let's see what happens." This is where it gets interesting. The same Norwegian captain picks him up in the same place. My dad gets dumped on deck, and he looks at the captain, and this is the gallows humor. He said, "Oh, Christ, not you again." So that was kind of the end of the war for him. And after the war, many years after the war, he met Otto Kretschmer in London. And my dad said at the time, he said, they were just young men following orders. He said, and they walked towards each other. My dad did walk again, and they shook hands, and my dad said, "You bloody bastard." And they had beer, he said that they just, he felt as bad for the enemy, the young men, as he did for his own men.
There were some times where it seems like
Kretschmer was not a Nazi.
It seemed really it seemed like you read about a lot of the encounters during the Battle of the Atlantic or the Pacific, where one ship was sank, and and there's survivors in the water, and you want to go get them, but unfortunately, you don't know if there's if there's another submarine in the area, or you get a report that there's you're in a tin can, and you get a report that there's heavy cruisers heading your way. You can't stay. If you do, you're gonna get it.
Yeah.
And so they would have to leave.
They couldn't stop. Yeah, and a lot of at some point, I can't remember who was head of the German Navy at the time, but his orders to the U-boat captains was, if you see survivors in the water, just kill them, shoot them. Which a lot of U-boat captains would not do. They would give them a life raft and then send their coordinates to wherever so they could be picked up. But yeah, that was the one order: shoot whoever's alive.
No, I wish I could say it was different over in the Pacific, but that wasn't. Both sides
just as bad.
Both sides would shoot each other dead in the Pacific.
Yeah. War is just brutal. I wish it wasn't necessary, but anyone who has served and who is serving now, anyone who's lost someone they love, my heart is completely with them, and this film is for them. And I hope that they understand that we've really put our own souls into this. It's not a cutesy, fun movie. It's very, very deep. It's almost Shakespearean at times, but it's an actor's piece, and I'm just relying on my creator to send me the bankable names that we would love to have.
Yeah, hopefully that will. I think it's very noble. It's very needed. Like I said, there's 77 million people though that they don't really care, and that's depressing in a great deal, in a sense. But at the same time, it's like more power that you are doing it, or that you are writing this movie, because these are the type of movies that we need to see and hear more than ever than now.
Yeah, it's not going to be an easy one to watch for a lot of people, and it's definitely not a kids' movie.
Watch how Hollywood reacts to this. It's going to be very interesting to see how they react to our situation being what it is? Are we still gonna get wartime films? Are we still gonna get the proper
Yes.
perspective and the truthful storytelling? It's gonna be very interesting to see that. Like, are we ready for that? Are we still gonna be able to tell true stories, or will the pressure be on? Because history books are already being rewritten. They already are being rewritten.
Revisionists, yeah.
Yeah, they sure are. And
And
that's a tragedy in our country. That's horrible.
So you're writing a story, a very important story. How will it actually see? Will movies like this continue to get made, or will suddenly you start running into resistance? Like, well, maybe I shouldn't put my money into that because someone else might be looking at me. That's kind of fear that we have, in our country now. People are going to be watching very carefully, because now they truly are going to have cause to fear our government. Like, am I going to be allowed to tell my story about combat veterans? Will I be able to get the help? Will I be able to get the tax incentives? Will I be able to do this and do that? If I'm shooting my story, you're going to be shooting in New York. Will the people in New York, will they accept it? Will they accept this? Will they let me film my story the way I want to tell it? Will producers come in there and try to change the dynamic of the story, because they want to appease to those 77 million people? Let's not make the government all that bad.
I'm very stubborn.
Yeah.
I'm very stubborn. I know I don't have any right to be, but
but as an independent film, it'd be a lot easier than a studio film.
Yeah.
And the investors will know what they're in for before we even start. They're gonna know. They'll know the story. They'll know who the cast, and we're not. They don't. There's no more input after that. Once they agree, and we give them the cast that they want, they're not going to breathe down our necks. So we're going to be able to tell our story because we're keeping it small enough, where it's not the studio executives, the suits are going to come down and say, point at you got to shoot, you got to, we'll have there'll be a first AD there that's going to make sure we make our day.
Keep me in line.
Yeah. Well, first time director, really good first AD.
Let me ask you, Craig, this question. I'm not sure. This is one of the things I was going to ask you about this, but I'm sure you still are. But you're friends with Quentin Tarantino, and you've worked on him on some films. You worked with him on one film that you did, and co-acted with him, and you were in Reservoir Dogs. I'm not sure how much contact you have with him now, but if you are in contact with him, if you still talk to him, have you talked to him about this movie and get his idea about about the timing of this movie? What if he did talk to him or plan to talk to him? What do you think? What kind of advice do you think that he would give you for Broken Brothers?
I haven't talked to Quentin about this film. I haven't talked to Quentin for a while. What he would say is something along the lines of, when you write a script, you should put so much of yourself into it and not hold yourself back, so that when somebody reads it, it almost embarrasses you. And we kind of did that here. That's I'm sure he would, and I hope he will when we get this thing done. It'd be great if he'd see it. But I think he would be very, very, very much for the things that we're talking about now, and in the script, but also things that we've been conversing about. I'm not going to get into detail, but I do know a little bit about how he feels politically about things and stuff. But Quentin, I think, would like this a lot, and he likes independent work.
Yeah,
he likes independent cinema. He enjoys that. He likes seeing people take chances.
I think that we sort of get an idea about his other part too. Anybody's ever watched this movie, Inglourious Bastards?
Yeah.
I think he definitely expresses exactly how he feels about it. So
Yeah. True.
that is a wickedly sharp movie on more levels than one.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think it was you, Craig, who told me once. I've never met Quentin. I adore his work, and I think he's created a new genre. And thank God for the fact that he is so fearless. But I think it was you who told me about what somebody said to Quentin one day. You want to do it this way? Well, they won't let you. And Quentin said,
"Oh yeah, I was mean.
Who are they?"
Yeah.
they don't
listen.
do it
There's
way.
a really good. You can actually find him talking about that on YouTube when he talks about they. Who are they?
Yeah.
And he says that really, if you believe there's a they become real. If you don't believe in that, there's no they out there.
Yeah.
And some people may say that's very, a very naive way of looking at things, but that's not true at all. Because if Quentin had believed in a they, then he probably would not have been able to put a career together, given what he was trying to do, not only when he did Reservoir Dogs, but even before that, and the films that he was writing at the time.
Yeah. The thing is, I think the industry, I think film, any creative medium, and I come from a ballet background. That was my first career. I was a professional ballet dancer. Everything has to evolve. Everything has to grow and change if it's going to remain fresh. You need new input, new ideas, and right now this film is. We didn't mean it to be, but it is not. It's going to be shot organically. I have the most brilliant cinematographer, Martin Moody, who we're working with, and there's going to be no CGI, nothing like that. I mean, this is like so anti that world. This is just because it's the kind of story that actually demands. We're going to be in the snow. Well, we're going to have to get cold. We're going to have to just dress up and put up with the weather. It's organic, and that is exactly. I think these huge sound stages that are being built right now that are going to be everything's green screen. This is not green screen at all. So we're planning to shoot we're not doing what a lot of people are doing, which is shooting a movie out in a week and a half. I don't think that would serve us at all.
Not this one.
We're going to be shooting for well over a month. You've got to. I'm hiring the best people that the budget can afford, and then I'm going to get out of their way and trust them to do their job. Obviously, I will make my notes and adjustments, but look who I'm surrounded with. I mean, these two guys here have been my they're my North Star. And as a woman, it's lovely to have men around me who are not misogynistic at all and who don't feel in any kind of way threatened and who actually want this to happen. Because their hearts are in the right place, and it means the world to me, and hopefully it will influence the film.
Now, have you ever shot a short film yourself, Patsy? Have you ever shot a short film?
I have. I've also been a cinema. I come from a commercial advertising photography background, so I've shot commercials, short films, yes. And being a cinematographer on a stop motion short film, which was really interesting. And we were dealing with two 12-year-olds who had to do everything in, like triple slow motion for us to get each shot as we were going along. So yeah, this is an extension of that. I think it's just going to require pacing and a wonderful crew. And I think we're hoping to have most of our crew, as many as possible, be veterans. And my reason for wanting that is because the industry has been so crippled by firstly COVID and recently the strike. I want to give veterans, because veterans come back from war and they either go into law enforcement or a lot of them go into film production as crew. And what I love about them is that they hit the ground running. They're problem solvers, never say they can't do anything. They'll figure it out. And they are highly disciplined and highly motivated. And I want to give the veteran crew, film and TV crews, I want to give them the chance to recoup some of the losses that they've all been hit with recently. And besides, I would be so blessed. Most filmmakers will have one expert to give them advice on a film. I'll have an entire crew who are going to tell me that patch is wrong. That medalism should be on the other shoulder.
But you're also, Patsy's also in constant contact with a lot of vets.
Yeah, a lot of veterans.
Multiple.
Vietnam vets.
Well, you don't want to have too many cooks in the kitchen.
No. But as consultants, helping her to make sure that it's done properly.
I want to make sure you understand, everyone else understands. She is the director. It's not a matter of Patsy's going to let everybody do her job for her. No. She's the voice. She's the one with the vision. We'll get on the set. She's the director, and everyone will know it. We're just trying to say that, especially when it comes to veterans, we want to listen to them.
Yeah, we
It's
welcome
important.
suggestion. We welcome suggestion.
It's
It
just
doesn't
really
mean I'm going
important.
to take everything and use it, but I'm going to listen.
Things like the dialogue, the profuse use of profanity and things that veterans tell us. Oh, this is what we do, and so we want to make the movie. Yes, it's an independent film and it's entertainment. It absolutely is, but we want to make a film that is not far-fetched. You want something that is realistic, that does honor for the veterans, and also displays accurately the things we're trying to show. That, yes, folks, it really is like this. We're not making this up. It really is like this. But it's Patsy's film.
It's Patsy's film. She'll be very generous with everybody, but it's her vision.
Yeah.
And most people I've worked with over my commercial advertising career, there's a reason why you hire the same people back, is because you know what you're getting.
Yep.
And most of them have kind of celebrated this move, and we're wondering why it took me so darn long to get to it. But there's a reason why a lot of people don't direct movies when they're 20 years old, because directing it's a giant jigsaw of moving parts, and a lot comes at you all the time. Everything in this film, every situation, every word has come from real life. And actually, it's so interesting. We were talking about doing a rewrite, and an actor who has the script right now was talking to one of my producers, and he actually gave me a great line, which we're going to put in the film. They were in a supermarket together, and he's a world man. I mean, I can't really mention his name right now, but he's a world treasure in terms of acting. And she said, so what are you looking for? What are we looking for in the supermarket? And he said, oh, I don't know. I'm just figuring it out as I go along. And I was like, ha, write it down. Because really, that's a lot of what we're trying to do. We're just figuring it out as we go along.
Applies to life,
People,
not
life.
just supermarkets.
Yeah.
Well, the
So-
good thing about Sam and Craig is that they've been on many, many sets. I mean, Sam as an actor, Craig as a screenwriter, an actor with it himself.
And I've been on a lot too, yeah.
He definitely got experience there to help out. I mean, for sure. And as far as writing goes, I mean, and I'm gonna talk about this because I definitely want to talk about this. I would be kicking myself in the butt if I don't. But one of the cool things about Craig, though, is, and he probably is getting the idea what I'm going to be talking about here, because it's important to have fun, right? it's a very broken, Broken Brothers is a very, it's a, everybody wants to get that great American work. I want to be the one who writes the 12 Angry Men. I want to be the next one that, to Kill a Mockingbird. I want to be that guy. Everybody wants that, but in order to get there, you have to do a lot of writing. You have to make a lot of different projects. A lot of them are not necessarily going to be what you're aiming for. I want to write the big next war drama. Well, in order to do that, sometimes you have to have a little bit of fun beforehand.
Oh yeah.
Okay, well, I want you to write a after school special. I want you to write a science fiction movie. I want you to write a creature feature or whatnot.
Oh, we've got a few in the works.
Yeah, but this movie, it has levity to it too. There's also a lot of humor.
Well, let me ask you, Sam, before I get to Craig, because but let's talk a little bit about humor, because humor is important in a film and to actors. I mean, you come in there and they hand you a script and it's all doom and gloom. I mean, when you get scripts, do you actually look for the humor in your stories, that the parts that you read for? Do you want to make sure that there is some fun in it, like to have an out laugh moment? I mean, even in the most serious of the most serious, there is room for humor, whether it be dark or callous or.
Yeah, even the way you deliver it, just depending on what you're doing with the character, the choices that you make, the way you deliver lines, just the inflection of a line could change from something that could be dark to something that could be humorous, and have so yeah, you could take a dark character. There's been many villains in dark stories that have had a lot of humor to them. Instead of just playing it safe. Playing it safe is, I've worked on a lot of movies where I played it safe because of time restraints. Short, you don't have a lot of time. And also fear. Sometimes you're afraid. You want to be that dangerous actor that's going to take that chance and maybe get egg on your face. When you're working on a movie that's shooting in 10, 12 days, it's basically, hit your mark, say your lines, and just, sometimes you can't. You can't, breathe any life or even take a breath. Sometimes even pause. Some directors will say, all right, let's do it again, but without that pause there. We just keep it tight.
Yeah.
But the good, when you have a little bit of a budget and you can, you have more time to play around and not worry about getting, screwing up. Because, it's another take. But sometimes more.
Are you a big fan of improvise, or do you like just operate strictly off a script?
I love improv.
He's good at it.
I love to. I love.
Really good
Yeah,
at it.
I love improv.
And he's funny.
And I've been lucky to have a lot of directors that afford me to go a little bit off, because I also I know what the scene's about. I know who my character is, and just play around with the words. Just throw something in that's not there, take something away, switch the lines. It just makes it more organic. I mean, I've never worked with Scorsese, but almost all of his films, I think, that are like Casino. Supposedly, when Sharon Stone first came on set, it was a little hard for her in the beginning because she normally, it's the script and whatever, De Niro and Pesci, they were James Woods, they were improvising a lot, and she was a little nervous at first, but she's a wonderful actor and she picked it up really quick. But yeah, I worked on a show called Siberia, and it was written. The script, we had scripts for every episode, but the dialogue, 99% of the dialogue was all improv. That's the way Matt Arnold created it. He wanted it to be organic because it was a fictional account of a reality show that goes bad. So in the very beginning, he wanted it to be completely like a reality show. They even had the shooters came from a lot of the big reality shows, Survivor, and then after episode 5 or 6, it became more cinematic and story driven. But a lot of people they thought it was a reality show until people started dying, and they're
Right.
like, wait a second, why are they still filming? This Tommy just died. And then somebody said, wait a second, Tommy's not dead. He's in LA and he's tweeting. And wait a second, it's not in Siberia. They're lying. It says, I saw the credits, it says Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Yeah,
And then somebody would follow
Star
back
Trek
and say,
was
well,
not-
Star Wars wasn't shot in space either. So it was a wonderful experience. We shot 5 weeks in the winter, 5 weeks in the summer. Because we need to, yeah, it was like summer camp. Made a lot of close friends. Johnny Wachter was I don't know if you know about Johnny Wachter. He's the actor that was killed May 25th. Shot
Yeah, they were trying to.
catalytic converter.
Yeah.
Dead by these animals. He was such a big part of the show. We became really close friends. The whole cast and crew were really close. But Johnny was one of a kind. He was an amazing human being, and he actually was going to be attached to Broken Brothers. We wrote a role for him, and he loved it. I think in April, he'd read it in April, and we spoke to him on the phone about it a little bit. He says, "Yeah, come in. I want to do it.
Attach me."
And
he said, "Let's talk more in next week," which we did. And then 2 weeks later, he was dead.
yeah, he said that he'd love for Patsy, the director, because Patsy knew him well too. He said that Patsy is very nurturing, so he would love to work with her as a director. And he said, I'd like to work with me again because of the experience that we had in Canada and Siberia.
And he was very fond of Craig.
It was very sure. We all
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a very devastating loss for the film, and it was May. And look at, we kind of at the point where we're thinking of replacing him as the one character, but it's so hard because we saw him in that role, and actually, funny enough, I dreamt about him last night, and
she told me about what she did.
I can't. I'll start crying. Yeah.
No, I get that. I remember when Anton Yelchin died.
Oh,
Man,
that was terrible.
That was horrific.
I mean,
it seemed like it just seemed like everywhere I turned there was an Anton Yelchin movie or project on. And I was a big
He was
fan of
crushed by his own vehicle.
Freak accident.
His vehicle crushed him.
it.
Popped out of a park and went into neutral, and he was pinned between I think it was a Jeep, and his his front gate.
Yeah, and
Suffocated.
no one heard it, no one saw it, and so he just that was just it was terrific. I mean, seeing someone like that pass away way before their time and not through any fault of their own, it's just it's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard. It's when you see someone who does something stupid, I may be callous or when it comes down to that, but when I see people are doing something stupid and they end up, like a Darwin Award winner,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I have compassion, but I don't necessarily have compassion for that.
Yeah.
I don't. I just look at that and going like, why? Why? Before that hurricane, they went and talked to this guy. I guess he had one leg and he was on a sailboat, and and they're sitting there going like, you need to put your boat in a much safer area. And of course, he didn't think he had anything to worry about. I'm going to be all right. I'm going to be all right. And it's just like, you don't see the bigger picture. It's not about you. It's not about you. It's all about the people that have to come get you afterwards.
Yeah.
If you get in trouble, that means there's 3 or 4 people are going to have to come out and risk their own lives to get your ass. It's not about you; it's about what you're putting them through.
Right.
And it's,
Exactly.
yeah. But
Exactly.
Craig, talk to me a little bit about this, because I'm a fanboy. For one thing, I'm a fanboy. So I love fun movies. And one of the things I saw when I saw your IMDb is that you wrote Doll Man versus Dynamic Toys. I can't tell you how excited I was when I read that, because I am a huge fan of Full Moon, and I just want to
They have a
know.
lot of fans. They really do.
I want to know how the hell did you walk into and get such a kick-ass movie?
The first thing that happened was my manager at the time, Catherine James, had sent some of my material to Charlie Band. But what really got me Doll Man versus Demonic Toys is the fact that Courtney Joyner, who had written a lot of movies for Charlie, highly recommended me to Charlie as well. And then also the star of the movie, Tim Thomerson, and I knew each other as well too. So Courtney and I sat down and we wrote, well, I guess you could call it a treatment for, because we knew Charlie wanted to do, he told us he wanted to do Doll Man versus Demonic Toys. And so we wrote kind of a beat treatment, and they liked it. And so then I went on to write the script, and they liked that, and then it became a film. It was a load of fun.
Oh,
it really was.
I'm looking at the cast now. Were you able to stay on set during the filming of the movie?
I was on set for some of it, but I also had another assignment, a writing assignment going with a company called Image. And so I was busy. But
in case some of you guys may not know, this is back when Full Moon was actually a very serious, a very legitimate studio that was putting out some really fun movies with some really good casts.
Yeah.
You had Tim Thomerson, you had Tracy Scoggins,
yes,
who was absolutely stunning back in the day.
I know. I had a crush on her. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know anybody who didn't. I don't know any red American boy who didn't. You also had Phil Foncario was in this. That was another well-known name. You have Frank Welker, who did all the vocal effects. Frank Welker is still out there doing it today. He's still out there voicing Scooby-Doo. I just think it was a lot of fun, and when I saw that on your credit list, I was just like, man, how cool was that?
Well, I mean, I got to write a script where Baby Oopsie Daisy, I had a monologue actually. So I mean, it was, like I said, it was a load of fun, and it really was. Charlie, Courtney, and I think there was someone else there. I can't remember. I wasn't Tim though. Somebody else was there. And we're talking about the story, and Courtney stops everyone and says, we are all adults here. So, I mean, because it was getting so whacked out and everything. But yeah, I had a blast with that. That was a lot of fun.
Now, did you have that? When you went and co-wrote with Joe the Rio Bravo movies, Joe Cornette, did you catch that same kind of fun? Did you find this movie to be the same level to fun to write as Doll Man? I mean, it's just like
Gunfighter Rio Bravo, first one.
Yeah.
Or
right.
All of them, really, I didn't collaborate with anybody on that. The thing with Joe is I know what he likes and the way he wants things to be. And then you've got Alexander, who's a really good creative producer to work with.
Yeah, he is.
As a writer, you're finally working with, because this doesn't always happen. You're working with someone who can tell you what he wants and can come up with good creative ideas with you. So as far as story goes, I would have to say Alex and I were responsible for most of it. As far as the script goes, that was pretty much all mine. But it was more of a roadmap because when Joe gets a hold of it, then he gets to put his creative forces behind it as well. And that's good. I like that because I don't want to write a script that takes somebody's job away from them. I want the director to bring creativity to it, and the actors too, and cinematographer and everybody, because it'll make it a better movie. I want it to be a good movie. So, but yeah, I enjoyed writing Gunfight. I really did. I've enjoyed writing. I've wrote several movies now for Alexander Nevsky, and I've really enjoyed writing them. They're fun to write.
Oh my gosh, yes. You just like if you get the next one, if you write the next movie, you know, you got to promise us one thing. You got to promise us that you're gonna write a scene where Alexander is coming into town on a horse.
Where he's what?
When he's coming into town on a horse.
Oh, okay.
We absolutely love the scenes where Alex was coming in riding a horse.
Well,
you need a big horse. He's a big guy.
yeah, he's
oh
actually,
my God. That's the funny thing about it is that's the thing. It's like he is so big and it seems like I've talked to Joe about this. I said, you see him coming in and you look at the horse and you're going like, man, he's bigger than the horse. You know, it's like
no, but he's a pretty good writer. He really is.
I heard that he works really hard on all aspects of his career. He is one of the hardest working guys out there.
He's a hard worker.
You know,
Gentleman.
Yes, I know that. I know he might get comparisons to Schwarzenegger, but you know what? I look. If someone's going to compare Alexander to Arnold Schwarzenegger, that's probably about the highest compliment you could pay him.
Well, they happen to be friends too.
I mean, let's look at Arnold's career.
What's that?
And so, but I you know, and the one thing you always get from you know, from Arnold too, is that Arnold is extremely kind. I have never read anything about Arnold Schwarzenegger being rude to anybody.
Yeah,
he's
difficult.
Yeah. I've heard that everything that I've read, and you can't control all the press. I mean, if you're an ass, it is going to come out that you are an ass. And I don't care how good of a PR person you got or what have you. That will come out sooner than later that you're not exactly the nicest guy to work with. But I have never read a single word about Schwarzenegger about being one of those guys. And you know, I'm sitting there with Alexander, and it's like, you know, like the first time I met him and Joe, I was so blown away with just how extremely generous that he is. You know, he's taking his credit. He's making sure that everybody's getting it.
Yeah,
is that easy? Is that you know, as a producer, is that the best kind of person to write for? Someone like a Joe Cornette or an Alexander. Well, I mean, were they? I mean, let's put it this way. I'll put you on a spot here. I know it's a little bit of time passed, so maybe you can't compare it. But what was it like writing and working with Charles Band back in the '90s versus working with, you know, someone like an Alexander or Joe today? Is there very much difference between how?
Yeah, there's a fair amount of difference. You know, you have to understand something, especially when I was writing. I wrote several things for Charlie, but they were just rewrites too. So there was Doll Man versus Demonic Toys, and then some things I rewrote too. But you have to understand that Full Moon has its own back then had its own universe.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, there really is a difference because when I was writing anything, I'm writing a Full Moon film, and I'm writing for that universe. That's how it's, you know, how things are supposed to look. Whereas with Alex and Joe, Joe's universe really, and I write a lot of things in the Western so he can do this too, because I like it too. He loves a lot of the Westerns. Oh, he's got a very good historical backdrop, you know, creative backdrop. When it comes to Westerns, he knows about a lot of them, but he really likes a lot of the spaghetti Westerns and some of the European ones too. And I know that Sergio Corbucci is one of his favorite directors from the past, and he certainly was one of mine too, especially with the original Django movie,
Yeah.
which is insane, which is so good. But so to write with for Joe, I'm thinking along the lines of something that is maybe a little bit more Italian-esque, and we kind of blur the line between reality and and maybe surreal things that are happening, and I mean, see, these guys, they aren't afraid in a Western to have Cynthia Rothrock get in a martial arts fight.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
I got a huge smile. I got a huge smile when I saw her do the scorpion kick in that dress.
Yeah, I know.
I'm
As a
going,
trademark, but she worked it in there, and that's really cool. We had Art Camacho, who was just fantastic as a fight and stunt choreographer. So they had a lot of fun working together, those two. And Art Camacho's also involved with our film.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, so writing for Joe, I'm writing for someone who likes these movies like Django, and likes movies that westerns that aren't rigid. They blur the lines a little bit, and
Sure.
I like that too. And Alex does too. Alexander's the same way. I mean, even the lead character. We decided to make Ivan Turchin. We decided to make him this 6'5" giant, Alex, and make him such a perfect shot and such a good gunfighter that he never misses. He just doesn't know how to miss.
I know. I read some people were commenting on that, and and I'm thinking to myself, going like, that's how it used to be. Like you see the Lone Ranger come up there. The Lone Ranger never missed.
Yeah, well,
that's how every time you see John Wayne pull on, draw it out on somebody, he never misses. It was like that. And it's sort of fun to come back. It's sort of like a homage to the good days of the Western, Western story days. I have no problem with it.
And Alexander, as well as Joe, but especially Joe, again, has this great catalog in his mind of past Westerns. And I mean, he's so encyclopedic about it. And so, yeah, you're going to get
the Wide West is going to be.
What's
Now
that?
you wrote the script for or wrote the screenplay for the Wide West. That looked absolutely ton of fun, literally, because those guys are 600 pounds apiece. That looks to be like a ton of fun. Like I like it. I can't wait to see that.
That's actually quite a pun, saying a ton of fun. That particular movie, we have actual sumo wrestlers in there.
Oh my gosh! And then
they dwarf Alex.
Yeah, they really do. Maybe not in height always, but in body mass, oh yeah.
I've heard, I was telling people about that movie. I was sitting there saying how it's going to have samurais in this movie, and a lot of people started laughing at that, and they were like, that sounds sort of silly. And I'm going like, do you know how many classic westerns, American westerns, had featured Oriental characters or Asian characters, as samurai or as ninja, though they didn't call it necessarily ninja back then, but it's not unheard of to bring in an Asian actor to do roles like that. I think that's to me it's like that's what makes it refreshing, because it's like some of the best TV episodes I saw featured action with Asian actors, and I thought it actually fit.
Not
I've never seen a sumo wrestler.
Not unlike our Ivan Turchin character in the gunfight at Rio Bravo Westerns. There is some fact in the Wide West in terms of when sumo wrestlers really did arrive, and then they went to Washington and they put on a demonstration for Teddy Roosevelt. So I mean, we have some fact in there too,
Sure.
as well as the fiction.
And Ivan himself was a real life character, was a real life person. I don't know if he was 6'5", 300 pounds, but I mean, he was.
Ivan Turchin. Yeah,
Yes.
he was a little shorter, a little heavier, but he was a badass though. He was. I mean, he had courage, and he was a really really good Civil War general that Abraham Lincoln himself made a general. He was a colonel for a while, but then Abraham Lincoln is the one himself that promoted him. So a lot of the stuff that we have in the westerns about Ivan are actually, it's pretty accurate. The only thing that might not be accurate is he probably wasn't 6'5" and built like a, you know.
Yeah, this horse was probably a little bigger too.
Yeah.
Sam, you also worked on the Rio Bravo. How did you guys all meet? Craig, how did you and Sam and Patsy all meet up? Was it on a movie set, or has it just been through years and years?
We've known each other since I guess the mid '90s. Actually, I met Craig, I think, right after he wrote and directed Boogie Boy with Mark Dacascos and Joan Jett and a lot of other wonderful actors.
Good people.
Through Catherine James. Catherine James is who brought us all together. She was my manager, became very close friends with her, and Patsy got to know her that way. Craig knew her already for a good 10 years before that, since the 80s. Going back to Quentin Tarantino, Craig brought Quentin Tarantino, introduced him to Catherine. And Catherine is the one who launched his writing career at first. He was actually at first an actor, right? He did.
Yeah, I mean, he
played Elvis.
He had nothing. He walked into Catherine's office and really didn't have anything to show her. But this is how Catherine was. She had one meeting with him, and I was there too. And she said to Quentin, even though he didn't have anything, she said, and I quote, "I have no doubt you will be a major force in this industry."
Yeah, that was Catherine.
Unquote.
Yeah.
And she figured it out right away. She saw it. And then that, that helped give him the, I think it helped give him the energy that he already had to begin with, but even more so to start writing scripts. He really became a writer then. He became very prolific. And I had the honor of working, a little bit with him on the scripts, and particularly he just couldn't type them up, and I could, so I would type them all up for him and everything. And she got him started. She helped him a lot on Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, and then after that,
but also
they
before
went their
that,
ways.
but also the
Yeah.
Natural Born Killers and True Romance.
Yeah, I mean, well, Natural Born Killers, she helped while the script was still his, but and she did help Oliver Stone a bit too, as far as putting that together too, and Don Murphy and Jane Hampshire, who had produced it. Catherine definitely was tied in with them.
Yeah. She had a way of predicting people's careers years ahead of what they were at the time.
She did the same thing with Mark Dacascos.
Yeah. And
he had very little to show, and she brought him in.
Yeah.
She knew he was going to go.
Yeah, and Sam, and we sadly she developed cancer, and the three of us, this is where we really bonded as friends as well. We stayed in her house with her 5 rescue animals in her last year of life, and and she actually predicted Broken Brothers for me, and she said to me, "The world needs to see this film."
Yeah.
And she said, "Patsy, pick my brains while I'm still alive." And I said, no, you're my friend. So let's just leave it at that. And we wanted to give her, we didn't want to, use her in that way. I mean, she was just such an exquisite human being and lovely soul. Now I'm regretting it because, but she did encourage me. She said, use Craig. He will make sure that script is down to the last typo perfect. And she believed in Sam, and but she had that ability. She was extremely, I would almost venture to say psychic, but when she saw somebody and she could read, but she was a true manager. She would see their careers 10, 20 years from when she met them.
And she knew everybody. And if you're an actor, I don't think when she sent me out, I ever had a pre-read. I always went directly to producers.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to, go do a pre-read and then call back and this and that. She'd pick up the phone and
she's well connected.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody. I've listened to her on the phone.
Yeah, she was great.
And she was amazing. She had this amazing way of.
She also had this great voice, and she was really.
But firm, she was not a pushover by any means.
No.
But our friend Brian's been in with the chat from the beginning, and he's sitting there going, he says, do you guys worked with Tarantino? Yeah. I know Craig definitely worked with him on a lot of projects. Now, Sam and Patsy, did you get to have you met Quentin Tarantino yet?
No, we have not.
I did. Yeah.
Oh, you did. Oh, you
very,
did. Yeah.
Very briefly.
Yeah.
At Catherine's house, it was like I was coming in to meet with her, and he was like leaving, and it was quick. And then actually, I actually met him at the midnight showing of Pulp Fiction at the Man's Chinese. He was had a baseball cap on. He just wanted to hide and just see the reaction of the audience. It was a packed house, and I just spoke to him really quick. Said, enjoy this moment.
We do know his mom very well. His mother's lovely. And she's actually a very, very talented producer in her own right.
There's a director that I've had on the show 3 times, Joe Leone, and he has sort of talent as well. He works with he has spotted 4 different actresses that had just been outstanding, and you just know that they're going to go someplace far, and they're just it's an amazing gift. I had that when I worked in music. I could hear a band's music, I could hear their demo tape, and I could tell you if they had a shot at it or not as far as the next level went.
Oh, cool.
I actually got jobs because of that. I got jobs. Yeah, I got hired by big venues to do that. To like, can you find the next big thing? And a lot of the bands I had come out and play, they end up doing big things. So it's definitely a fun thing to have. It's just something that you have, or if you have it, you have it. If you don't, you don't. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. The guy I used to work with, he used to call me and say, "What do we do with this? Pat, what do we do with this? Take it. Book it. Let's book it. Let's do a show." But that's a really good gift to have, to be able to tell if someone has the fire in their voice, versus one who don't know have the fire in their voice. To Alexander, look, you talk to Alexander and Joe. Exactly. You just know right that are there that those 2 guys they're driven and they're focused and they're determined and they're gonna go.
They're very driven. They are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Joe is one of
you guys. Same thing with you 3 with Broken Brothers. It's a passion project. It will drive you. It will heighten your senses as far as what do you need to do in order to make the movie work. It's not going to be just when I think if more filmmakers approach their projects as passion projects, I do think that the quality of a lot of the work would rise, because you invest. There's some people that they're slingers, right? They're directors that are hired. I was a hired gun. I know one director who I respect tremendously, and he did a hired gun picture, and you could tell because it wasn't very good, but he didn't get a lot out of it. When he asked the producers, he says, "Hey, I can help you with this. I got experience. I can help you make your movie a little bit better." And they told him no. And as soon as you hear that, you're just thinking to yourself, like, this is the reason why this movie's not working.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. But any director, when you're working and when you're directing something, there's several things they can do to the whole movie. When they come on the set for the first time, even if you're a hired gun, who you are, how you treat everybody that's working for you, and the attitude that you bring, it is going to wash over the rest of the crew. It really does. And it always is helpful to do things like at the end of the day, you say good night or good day or whatever, but you also thank them, all of them, cast and crew, by name, and let them know that you enjoy working for them. One of the things that's a real problem with work for hire, not work for hire, hired gun thing is on those particular movies. So many people are there just to collect their paycheck because there's a little bit less passion, and then there's a little bit less family, and you're not really working together. You're working to save your butt and to do your job.
And the director has less freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As a result,
right, yeah.
but so does everyone else.
But look, no director can ever claim to have made a film on their own. You are riding in on the shoulders of giants, and those giants are your crew, and they have got to be treated with the according respect that they deserve. They've got to be fed right, treated right, given. You cannot make a movie without good crew. That's just out there. There are so many people involved in the making of a film, and I think it would be extremely arrogant, and I hope I never fall into this trap, but I don't think I will, because I've been on the other side too. And that is appreciate everyone. Like Craig said, we have Art Camacho, who's going to be doing our fight and stunt choreography. When I approached him, because I've been watching him actually on Taken from Rio Bravo, I was watching him work on set, and that's the whole thing on set. People watch you, and they make decisions on if they want to work with you in the future. And when I called him, firstly, Art he's an absolute gentleman and a sweetheart, and one of the kindest people you'll ever meet. I called him and I said, look, this is the fight. I sent him the script, and he said, well, okay, so I'll do the stunt choreography and the fight choreography for you so you can direct it. I said, no, you don't understand. I want you to direct that scene, because if I direct it, it'll look like Swan Lake. So, I wouldn't know if anyone came up and gave me slapped me around. I'm not a fight person. So that's his area of expertise. Trust him. He'll do an amazing job.
And because of his personality and his experience, he's also one of the producers.
He's one of our producers as well. And he said something to me that that really made me feel like these two guys do, safe. He said to me, I'm paraphrasing, he said, Patsy, I'm going to help you make this dream come true. He said, I got you. I am your safety net underneath you. What a beautiful thing to say. Yeah. And I actually went, wow, I really do have the right guys on board, because none of these guys are in any way misogynistic. None of them are anything other than supportive, and and they kind of remind me of Joe Cornette, because I adore Joe. Just one of the coolest guys we've ever met, and a gentleman. So when I say I'm blessed, everyone says, oh, living the dream, I'm blessed. I truly, truly am, but I'm not taking any of it for granted. You know, and like I said, my cinematographer, brilliant. I've known him for a long time, and I knew he was the right guy for me. Where early on, I'm talking 12 years ago, when this idea was still forming, and I opened his fridge. We were guests in his home, and I opened his fridge, and I saw a plastic baggie full of 35mm rolls of film. He's a young dude, and I'm going, he knows film. And then I saw a coffee table book on his coffee table on Roger Deakins, and I'm going, he's my guy.
and they, Patsy and him talked.
Yeah.
And probably most likely it's going to be shot on film, not digital.
Yeah, he wants to shoot it on Super 35. And I said, well, that's great, because I'm a film photographer. I come from a film background. I said, well, I would love that too, if the budget can afford it, because if there's a hair in the gate or something, it's like Quentin can afford the reshoots. I don't know if our budget will support that. But then we discussed cameras, and we kind of, I think we probably settled on the Alexa, and because it does emulate film. And here's the other thing. If a story is a beautiful story, it's beautifully told, beautifully acted, everything is just right. A few minutes in, the audience don't care if you shot it on a box brownie. Yeah. They just are into the story. And I think that's what we have to do in mind.
It still has to be
good. No, yeah, it still has to hold up on the screen. Yeah.
Good sound, good photography.
Yeah, good sound is vital.
Great story, acting.
Yeah. We have a lovely film composer. And we've got one or two incredible songs, which we're busy looking for licensing of right now. But, it's this is all in the mix. And honestly, I lie awake at 3 a.m. I always wake up at the witching hour, just like, got to think of this, think of that, or it's not something I take lightly at all. And again, I just want, I really want this to resonate, and I want veterans to understand that we did this for them, for their families, the Gold Star families, for my own family, who suffered terribly as a result of war. It's a story of, it's a human condition, it's an actor's piece, and it's about the aftermath of war. It's about what happens after it's not big explosions and helicopters and flying shots and that kind of stuff. It's just
drama.
Very organic, and I just want to get the details right.
And as far as talking about cast, he's definitely cast. Radar.
This goofball. Yeah. Deputy Dog Radar.
Yeah. Why don't you tell him a little bit about it?
Yeah. Well,
show you.
I did. Yeah. He has, this dog has his own Instagram page, over 400,000 followers. And if anyone wants to follow him, is Deputy Dog Radar on Instagram. His handler is affectionately known as Sarge, and his name is Emin. And so this is Radar O'Reilly, because Emin O'Reilly, so Radar O'Reilly. And he's just been so much fun to deal with, because I will call him up. I'll text him like, can I call you about something? And he'll say, oh, we'll be apprehending somebody. It's a SWAT team standoff or whatever. I don't understand all this military stuff, doing a military movie. And then I said to him once, just an example, not the brightest bulb in the box, am I? So I said to him, so tell me, so how, because I wanted to get a scene right, how do you tell Radar to, get down on the ground? And the text response comes back, Radar down. It's just, I'm like,
he's a big part of the film. He's a huge catalyst. Sorry.
Does he respond to commands in German?
Yes, actually, like the German word for to a dog, is to attack is Varus. So we actually we use Varus, and he says that Radar does respond to both the German and the English commands.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that the Malinese respond to the German commands. I'm looking at my clock here. My clock here just hit 2 hours, so I have kept you guys over 30 minutes, and I do apologize for that, but we've been
There we go. But what we have to do is, who was going to be Johnny Wax's character, whoever actor replaces him, and Sam, their characters, we have to go up to where the dog is, and they have to work with the dog for 2 months first.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's very important. And then on set as well, no one is allowed to approach the dog unless Emin is present.
Right.
You know, for a lot of reasons.
No,
So-
yeah, for your own personal safety, because it's not a toy. It's a
well, that too. Plus,
They're a high prey. They have a high prey drive.
Belgian Malinois, yeah. And then also, you know, I think the film insurance company will want to know that, you know, they're not going to have, you know, dramas revolving.
I have to do that as well. Like when like he's cool when he's outside, he's mellow, but when people come over to the house, I have to tell them to don't go up to, don't go up to the cheetah and expect him to be a cat. He's
Right.
not.
Exactly.
If you go up to him and approach him the wrong way, well, he may not be all that big, but he could do a lot of damage to you, and I don't want to get in trouble. So, if you want to see the cat, I'll be happy to make that happen. But don't feel like you could just walk up there and just like, pals. It's not how it works.
No, you can't.
I get it.
Yeah. For some of the scenes with the dog and Sam, Emin is fortunately a marathon runner, so he said before we do the scene, he will run the dog for 2 hours in the woods, in the forest, just to wear him out a little bit. And this dog is 10 years old.
Right. Right, that's right. Get rid of the energy. Listen,
Yep.
I'm excited for for Broken Brothers. I'm excited to see it. I know that you're aiming to start filming in the wintertime, and we'll keep up with you and get progress reports from you, and maybe even to get a day behind the scenes type of video. And then when the time comes, or when you fill out the entire cast, we'll start having you guys come back and talk about where you're at.
The cast is going to be exciting when we announce them.
Yeah,
I can't wait. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and again, it's an important movie, and but it's also gonna be fun watching you guys, make it. About a heavy subject, but it'll still be fun to watch you, get to work behind the camera, and to make your film, make your passion project.
Yeah, we're gonna have a professional EPK person behind the scenes, electronic press kit, so that there will be interviews behind the scenes and somebody filming, the making of, because people that's one of the reasons I rolled out I started the social media campaign, was because people. We're not Steven Spielberg, so we need to get the word out as much as possible so that people will be expecting it when it happens.
build the audience.
Yeah, we're building the audience. We're not giving anything away, but we are, and it's really, really, really interesting because, we're getting a definite temperature, feeling the temperature of our potential audience. And, people are inbox messaging me and, understanding that they take time out of their day to send me long messages. And one woman mentioned to me last week that she can't wait to see the film, and she had just lost her husband, a Vietnam veteran, 2 weeks ago. He'd shot himself in the head. And these are the folk who we are doing this for, because the veterans need to be honored, and those who are no longer with us need to be remembered. And at the end of the film, when the credits go up, we have an honor wall. Friends, family, cast, crew, we're saying, give us photographs of your loved ones who are no longer with us so that we can honor them. And we want a photograph of them. We want to know if they were on a ship, what ship they served on. Just they need to be remembered. They cannot be forgotten.
You don't want to. I want to read about the Vietnam War, or you can't, because we don't have any books on it, because we don't carry it. Or the revised version of the war, whereas we won the war. In reality, we didn't. Or have a ghostwriter talk about Tonkin Bay like it really happened. I mean, there's a lot of things. So I get it. I get it.
If you want to really, there's a book that just literally came out last week by a Facebook friend of mine. He's a Vietnam veteran. I forget the name of the book, but his name is Jerry Glazer, and he writes from a first-hand perspective of the Vietnam War. And he's one of the most eloquent writers I've ever read. His skills are astounding, but it's what he says and how he says it. And he just launched his book last week. I'm actually buying it this week. And his name is Jerry Glazer. I forget the name of the book, but it's about, Vietnam War Remembered. That's it, Vietnam War Remembered. And this is an astounding accounting of what happened in Vietnam, including the politics behind it. So
Brian's actually heard of him. So his new book is coming out. Okay. For sure. Now, for sure, I better wrap this up. All right. I want to thank you for coming out and hanging out with us today and talking all things.
Thank you,
We get to talk a little bit about. Get to hang out and hear about a little bit about Dollman and Sam. I'm looking forward to seeing adventures of you training with that dog. That will be a lot of fun.
We're going to be filming that.
I'm looking forward.
Yeah, I think it'll be very cool.
You can see Sam in Taken from Rio Bravo too.
That's right. Sam was also there.
Character that he plays. Yeah.
Craig wrote that role for me. So I have Craig to thank for it, because at that time I only met Alex a couple of times. I didn't meet Joe yet, but Craig wrote the role for me, and Alex and Joe were kind enough to allow me to play that role. It was fun, cameo, but absolutely a lot of fun.
I can't wait to see what Joe's like playing a bad guy. He's playing the heavy in the Wild West, and
yes, he does.
I can't wait to see how dastardly he is. I think
he's got a cool character. He's really into it. So I think you'll really like it.
All right, let me tell you what's coming up on the channel here. We will be back here tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, the Midnight Society rides back into action again, as me and the cat and the gnat are back. We will be talking about Stephen King movies. He will be talking about Misery, featuring Kathy Bates and James Caan. And I will be talking about Cujo. About what makes Cujo, for me, Cujo is like the ultimate horror story. Talk about dogs. It's a horror story, but I always feel it's always been seen through the wrong set of eyes. Everybody always watches the film through the eyes of a mother and her son. Me, I watch it through the dog. The dog is the real victim in this.
Yeah,
I agree.
That's right.
And
Yeah,
not many people do that. Unfortunately, not very many people realize that. They see the dog slobbering and charging and all that, and they think it's the dog. It's Jaws on land. I've heard it called.
Yeah, and he was a family dog. He was a loving family dog, and then
family dog.
rabies.
And that's the real criminal. That's the real criminal. It's not the dog. It's the people who are supposedly entrusted with this care. So we're going to be talking about that, one of Stephen King's best books. And best set of books in both Misery and Cujo, and that'll be tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. And then Tuesday, we have actress Tiffany Saggio is all going to be with us on Tuesday at 8 o'clock. On the 20th, Wednesday, we have actress Zelly. I can't pronounce Zelly's last name, but I can tell you though that she's a fine actress, and she is one of the actors featured in Clint Eastwood's last film, Juror Number 2. And she plays one of the jurors in the film, and we'll be talking to her about what was it like working on Clint Eastwood's film. And that would be 8 o'clock here. And then on the 21st, one of the finest directors working today, and I do mean that because he's got skills. We'll be talking to our friend Jason Bork will be here with us on Thursday the 21st. That's what's coming up here on the channel. I want to thank the chat for coming out and hanging out. Brian, you've been a champ. You were here from the very first. I appreciate you so much for hanging out for the whole show. I really do appreciate that. I also saw Stephen Sheets was up there earlier, and And so I appreciate that as well. And Betty Jean, thank you again. We will see you guys. We'll see you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock here on the channel. Be good, be safe, and talk soon. You guys stay right where you're at just for a minute while I say goodnight to our audience right here, right now. Peace.